pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So, 9 o'clock, public comments. Okay. If you have an agenda item that you'd like to speak on, then please hold your public comment for that.
No. If y'all received my letter.
Yes.
And I'm standing firm on that if the county is willing and needs to be, then $4 per loaded mile is what I charge. It may seem pretty expensive when you're going probably 132 miles or 100 miles, but it's also pretty reasonable if you're going 30 miles. So really reasonable if you're going 30 miles, you're getting a load of probably about 26 tons is what my trailer will haul. So, you know, at $120 a load on 30 miles, which would probably be up towards Woodbine area or somewhere in that area, you know, that's pretty cost savings for you, I think.
You have an end dump or what?
I have an end dump. I have a 35-foot Travis. When it's fully extended in its third stage, the back of the trailer is only a foot off the ground. I've heard a lot about, but you can spread with an end dump. Well, you probably could if you're stupid. You know, and that's just all I gotta say about that. I bought an end dump trailer. My insurance man told me, you need to buy a grain trailer because the insurance on that end dump's gonna be so much higher because of the tip over factor. But, you know, if you got a decent place to dump and stuff, and I've dumped at a lot of places that kind of look pretty shady, but was able to do so without upsetting them.
Would you mind telling your name, please?
Robert Sawyer.
You signed it on the sign sheet.
Sawyer Drop Transportation, LLC. I've hauled for Saline County and stockpiled for them, and they'll get a big pile of rock built up, and then they'll have a loader man out there, or even their truck drivers that can run the loader and load yourself. You know, it's cost efficient for them, or they wouldn't be doing it. You know, that's just the way it is there. Then I was hauling from Woodbine over to Saline County.
You haul any sand for them?
I can haul sand. I can haul
I was
salt.
just wondering where you, if you did, where you went to get it.
Where you get your backhauls from if you're,
I don't do them backhauls.
okay. I was just wondering how you keep your prices where they are. I mean, it's
Well,
not
I'm-
really relevant to here, but.
I'm local. You know, I've got a very low overhead. You know, I've got a truck payment and a trailer payment and insurance payments, and I'm right here in Marion. So, you know, if I go out 100 miles and I come back, well, I'm still coming back, you know.
I guess you're
And,
home.
right, I'm back. That was my back all the way, right, you know, but no, I don't need a load going back out there. If you figure, I kinda hate to say this, but if you figure at $4 a loaded mile, I'm getting $2 empty, you're getting $2 full.
Right.
So, and that's not far off the average at $2 a mile, actually.
Thank you. Thanks for the information. All right, move on to administrative business.
Change orders.
lot of people that have protested their taxes.
That's where change orders typically come from. Yes. Or their personal property
Right.
that are assigned
Yeah.
conditions.
So it does actually have a bite.
Flood properties.
Because I know my boundary's low. I forgot to charge it last night.
What is it?
Morning, Randy.
Hello there, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I think I'm doing really good.
Beautiful weather yesterday, wasn't
Yeah, everything's unbelievable.
it? Love that groundhog.
But, you know me, I love it. But you know me, I love, I see the rural oats. So,
Doubled up.
win some, you lose some.
Make sure I got it.
Thank you. We received the audit engagement letter for approval, or excuse me, budget, not audit.
We need a motion to go ahead and accept that engagement letter. I'll make a motion to go ahead and accept the engagement letter. Jansen Hoff Lloyd. There is no dollar amount on it. Oh,
22,000.
20, okay.
And $50.
And the amount of,
I believe that's what I saw.
$22,050.
Got a motion? Is there
I'll second it.
a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Sign it. That was all that I had for administrative today.
One thing that bring up is, we spoke about removing the time on the agenda, the time, I didn't like to make a motion to remove future times on the agenda. That way, if we can get ahead of schedule, we can do so without having to wait for the next agenda item.
I'll second that.
Is that legal?
There would be some, well, there would be some instances, I'm sorry, where we need a time, because sometimes we have, by law, we have to have a public hearing on certain things, and generally those are scheduled during your agenda times. And so sometimes, we can't necessarily remove all times completely, so.
Be normal agenda items then.
So you could
Well, I just wanted to-
amend that to accept
Yeah,
hearings.
amend it for hearing
Public hearings.
by law.
I'll second.
So would you want to restate? You don't mind
I
to?
would like to make a motion to remove times, constraints on the agenda, and with exception to hearing items and other law-required items, to still have the time limitation noted.
An unscheduled agenda kind of a deal then.
It's still gonna have agenda items.
Subject to hearing.
So do I
Right,
need to
but
second?
unscheduled.
I'll resecond.
Okay, second by Diane. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So like today, is anybody required to do it at a certain time? For example, all these are flexible today.
I think it would be effective immediately, but.
No, I'm just asking.
But
For
just on a personal preference, I think today we need to stay with
Well, I
the
know that,
times.
well, I'm just have a list, I mean, like road and bridge could be moved if we got ahead of schedule. And the county treasurer's report.
Oh, you're talking about resituating.
Asking Tina.
Well, I think for today, the thing that you
Well, yeah,
could do while you're
the
waiting.
day will stay.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, it's 9:15. This 11:45 agenda item, if the commission wants to review those applications, you could go into executive session now, review those for 15 minutes, and then that's not anything the public would be in on anyway. So that would be something you could do now, even if you're sticking with the times on the agenda. So,
I would make a motion that we move the commission review applications for weed and HHW transfer station director.
So you'll probably, I'm sorry, you need to do that in executive session, so you'd want to utilize the language to go into executive session.
Your sheet.
Okay, I don't need to move it prior
I
to.
don't think so.
Already.
Okay.
No, it's
And that would be
not.
to
No.
review employment applications pursuant to the exception on the.
Did you see any of these applications?
No.
So that's all for personal matters.
Yeah, so you would do it, you'd say to review the employee applications pursuant to the KSA and number 2, I believe it is, for personnel. Or is it the one?
Didn't get any email.
No, they won't mail them out. It's
I
all-
move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss
I know some people applied.
Employment applications.
employment applications for item number 1, personal matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 75-4319B till 9:30.
With the,
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, out of executive session, no action taken. Moving on to emergency management.
Good morning.
Morning.
Make sure you got everything done before we get started. As we did visit last time I was here, we talked about a new employee, we talked about space to put them in. And that's why I'm here for is the lease. You should have been sent the lease in your packet. I don't know if you have that in front of you or not.
Yeah.
But it's it's in the same building as we have public health in. We're using some contracts basically saying just change, put my name on it. It's $160 a month. And looking for an autograph so we can actually lease the room.
That's right in the same office spaces.
It's in the same hallway.
Health department.
Health department, it's kind of in the back, all the way to the west
That's
and to
not
the
a-
north, south.
It's on the south side, going towards the east.
Oh, it's actually to the
Going
east.
towards the east.
Okay.
That's not an office space we'd already been utilizing at the
No.
health department.
No, and calling it office space is kind of a challenge, but they're old exam rooms.
Yeah, I mean.
They're about 10 by 11, 10 by 12, which is about, for any of you guys that are farmers, it's the size of a horse stall. It's kind of about how big they are.
Get that desk and 2 chairs.
Just about that. But nevertheless, it's space and it'll work.
That's not any space that we were paying
No, sir.
the prior lease on.
All right, so we have a lease in front of us. I would entertain a motion to approve this lease.
And then in the motion, is it just, you'd need to authorize also the chairman to sign.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Question?
okay.
Question. Has there been interest in the position?
2, and I just picked up another one. Actually, 4 now, but then one turned it down. I guess I got a job somewhere else. So we'll do interviews Thursday. It's gonna be Thursday.
Diane, did you have something?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept the lease for this additional position, and I'll authorize the chairman to sign the lease.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second
Okay, I got a motion and a second by David. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 4-0.
Thank you all. I'll bring this to your signature. I'm gonna get a copy in front of you. Oh, she does.
Yeah,
I don't care which one we sign.
Well,
let's just do this one since this
And
is the
then-
one that he sends.
And then I'll take it with me over to get the hospital to sign it, and that way the contract's in yours.
Do we need to make a copy before you take it?
Sure. Also, just 2 other quick things. It's that time of the year, no, not just because it's each one, it's time for storms and so it's severe weather time. We're doing the Storm Fury on the Plains, March 3rd at 6:30 p.m. at Tabor College in the Sherry Flaming Building. That's the new building they just put up. And I was able to convince Starbucks to say open serve coffee if you want Starbucks coffee. So that'll be there. It's a 2-hour program we do every year. The National Weather Service comes in and actually puts on the presentation for us. Also coming up on February 12th at the St. Luke Hospital in the basement conference room, we'll be doing a tabletop exercise from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And this will discuss a large variety of things that would possibly happen here within this community. And the events in this would actually affect the courthouse, the jail, and downtown area as well as residential. So welcome to be there.
Is that a disaster type training?
It is a disaster exercise. It's a tabletop exercise where we sit and we discuss theories and plans and things like that, so there's no red lights and sirens screaming down the highway, none of that stuff. But that's when it's going on from 9 to 2. We do take an hour lunch period, and we'll discuss about group plans and other different types of plans that different organizations would use. So,
Randy, did both of the departments in the county here complete their plan?
well, they would be able to say it again, so I don't.
Didn't most of the departments are supposed to put up a plan, right?
We went through the training
Did
last year, I
everybody
think it was.
prepare one, that
We
they have
only
a
have-
plan in place?
We only
like-
have 3 in place right now. 3
We
that
only
are
have 3.
completed.
So then we have departments that have not completed yet?
That's correct.
Wonder what we can do to get them other departments to comply? Because I know I've seen in our packets several times already the encouragement from Randy for the different departments to set these plans in their department in place, and they're just,
This term may be new to you guys. The COOP plan is continuity of operations planning. What that means is, for example, if we have to leave this building for whatever reason and can't come back to it for days, a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, how are we going to continue the government working and doing what we do? There are a lot of things, for example, we don't have to do driver's license here, you can go to another county and get your driver's license. So that's a piece you don't have to operate. But we still have to take care of the taxes, the clerk's office wants to take care of, all the HR issues and things like this. So there's a lot of things that have to be done, but there's a lot of non-essential personnel when it comes to a COOP when you have to actually leave. That doesn't mean if they don't come to work, you find a job for them somewhere else, so they still make the payroll. But that's part of a coup plan, is how you're going to actually make that move and have the tools with you to do your job wherever it is you move to, and to have a location established to move to. For example, if my office had to coup, I have 2 locations to go to. One is here in town, one's in Hillsborough. And hopefully we're working on a third in case I have to go south to Peabody. So I've already pre-located the buildings, I have agreements with them. The buildings that I will use already have the internet service in them, cell phones, what I would use for communications. So I'd be able to pick up and do what I need to do. And I already have all my tools in a coupe case. It's actually on wheels, a whole bunch of boxes with everything in it. To include the computers you guys just transferred over to me. Those are in there as well, because that's part of the coupe plan. So that way I could just roll it into whatever building I'm going to and start going to work and do what I have to do. Same thing for all of our government agencies, or even businesses need to do a business coupe plan. For example, your business, you're in 2 different places, you know, how do you continue shipping for your customers?
Well,
You know,
on the cloud, so we can.
Right, so you have a plan in
We
place.
can go to Wichita,
Right, so you have a plan in place.
we have to buy hardware, but.
So you're already thinking that through. So the government needs to have the same kind of plan, the hospitals need to, the schools need to. We all do, in case we have to do, especially the hospital and schools, because they're taking care of people. And do that as well. So that's one of the things that covers.
And so we have only 3 departments in the county that has completed, and we should have 100% participation in that. So, but I know Randy has encouraged them to do that several times, and just there's some departments that are just not complying. So, I don't know if there's anything we can do to encourage that, or, because if a tornado comes or whatever, then we have departments that are scrambling around and unprepared. So, but I just wanted to let the commission know that Randy has multiple times approached them and asked them to comply, and offered help to comply, and anyway.
And the IT department should have.
He is working on one.
He has everything all backed up someplace.
He and I have been talking about this quite a bit for several years.
Because if you got that, you can go
Yes,
someplace else and work.
he's got a couple places to do that with. You know, for example, we all unfortunately remember 9/11 when the towers got hit. There was a financial organization inside that one of the towers that did have a coup plan in place, and their alternate was in Phoenix, Arizona. So when the tower was hit and all the communication stopped up there and everything just quit, they didn't lose a penny, because penny for penny, every phone call would transfer quickly to Phoenix, and they continued doing the work. Even with this happening over here in New York City, they continued on going. So they had a coup plan in order to continue the business so it could thrive and go on. That's what the whole plans are for, is to continue on.
Redundant servers and all that.
The whole bit. You know, I mean, even part of my coup plan is this weekly, I back up on an external hard drive everything that I have, and I lock it up in my safe deposit box. So I'm only a week behind in case something happens, I plug it back in and go to work again. That's part of my coup plan, because as you're talking about the IT, there's not a server piece in it for me yet. He's working on it, but it's not there. So,
You're not online with the county.
no, I'm not in the server, not yet. He's working on it though. And so
Are there any
that happens.
mandates?
Say
for
again?
Is there any mandates for government agencies that departments within the agency need to have their own contingency plans?
I don't know if it's considered a mandate, but it is highly recommended. I know all the federal governments are mandated to do it. As far as the state government, I don't know if there is one.
I mean, it'd be kinda nice to
all the
know
federal
if there's a
agencies-
mandate there.
All the federal agencies are, but, with, you know, even with the mandate, it's still a good practice to have a plan in place of what you're gonna do if something goes south.
I would say it's just common sense, really, to have that in place.
You know, I think it's up to us to make sure IT department, you know,
All the departments.
I mean, we back up every minute, so we'll only lose a minute or two of work. If
In the courthouse?
No.
Oh,
in my
at your
building.
company, at your
But the
company, yes.
courthouse should be on the cloud and do that too.
And one of the challenges we talked about the IT here in the courthouse is that it is in the basement. And if we do have a flood, that's kind of a big problem. And I'm not talking about the dikes breaking. You know, over the weekend, we could break pipes in this building and fill the basement. Just simple things like that. Typically, you don't think about when you say flood, you think, okay, the river's rising, it's not always the way it works. So all of our computer servers in this building were in the basement on the floor.
Because it was an empty room when you started.
Right. And I know Lloyd, I can't speak totally for him, but I do know that he's working on the same thing as you, that as far as the keystrokes go, it's being saved somewhere else. So,
Very good, Randy. I appreciate your constant
I won't take up
effort.
too much time.
How many people attend the paper college thing?
How many it's in?
Yeah.
We haven't done it yet.
You've never done it before?
Oh, no, we've done it every year.
How many
Yeah,
people
we do it every year. Generally, about 200 people show up.
Okay, so it's a big.
We're doing it at Tabor College this year because a lot of their students are not from around here. Some are from other countries.
Never seen
They
a tornado.
don't really understand that. And they have a great big building. Which is,
What's the date again, please? The date of it.
I emailed this flyer to all of you guys too.
Right, I just thought you, when you were speaking, I thought you said March 3rd, and so I wanted to make sure I had it down right. It's March 5th.
Oh, I need to pick up the contract. I'll get that signed back to you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Have a good day.
You too.
I heard he was walking out, is it my turn?
Yep.
Good morning.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Great.
Is there only 4 of you today?
Appears like that.
Okay. So we had our pre-construction meeting on Friday, and kind of one of the big points that we needed to get through was when the contractor wants to get going. So we have everything ready to sign. The trick is we need to agree upon a notice to proceed date. So Randy was there, and I pointed out to him our contractor is requesting a March 2nd start date, which is a little bit off. He's saying that helps his subs be prepared to take off the minute he has the go ahead, which would be March 2nd. So if you guys are agreeable to that, I had a document set up that has, if we would say February 10th, if we said February 17th, February 24th, Randy kind of said he didn't believe that there was going to be an issue with that, but otherwise, if March 2nd's agreeable, it's a 250-day calendar day contract that puts them done November 7th. So all that leaves pretty good construction weather here going forward. The one thing he's hoping to have done before March 2nd is the abatement inspection, to be sure that there isn't anything in the building that he's got to be concerned with before tearing it down. So, if March 2nd's agreeable date, I will fill those in, and then we need signatures to make it official. When I leave here, I plan on catching Cody, in order to get it completely finalized, so.
Let's see, March 2nd was the date that the contractors would like.
Yes, that is the day the contractors requested. Now, Cody had said, yeah, if you guys wanted to say sooner than that, that's,
No, I think we owe it to them. I mean, holding them out on getting our lease set up, and
Yeah.
they've had to rearrange their workload to try to stay busy
Yeah.
until.
and that was kind of his point for pushing to March 2nd. It was nothing other than people have moved, other jobs had moved in line. They were expecting to get going sooner and said, well, this project's holding off, so I'll jump in line. So that's one of his main subs is telling him the March 2nd date is where that's happening from. So.
They gotta keep the people feet fed, so.
Yep. So if that's good, I will fill in these dates, and then we need a couple signatures.
Make a motion.
We have our lease financing in place, which we should.
Yes. I'll make a motion to approve the March 2nd.
Randy,
start.
you want to say something first?
No, that's,
Okay.
you're talking about the start date?
Yep.
Yep. That's why we,
Give me some-
give them good reason why we did that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's how I was filling them in on the conversation we had on
Yep.
Friday.
So I made a motion to approve the
Second.
March 2nd. Got a second by Randy. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Five oh.
Did you talk about the dirt?
I
Mentioned the abatement.
the abatement inspection.
Okay.
I do. That's okay.
Also 2019. Alright, whoever signed it, I need a signature at each one of the signed locations, and then I need somebody to attest, Tina will, or I think any of the other commissioners. Attest it. Thank you.
Advertising.
Is that the notice?
Absolutely.
Is that the notice to proceed?
I had a pen and
No,
paper.
thank you.
Probably should.
I didn't come
Go ahead and officially adopt.
completely.
Want to try to transfer it?
You just said approve start date,
That's most people take
but
it.
notice to proceed. And then what the
Karen
council
is
is there another-
felt tip markers, but for signing legal
that's all right,
documents.
I just, I'd like those noted that.
Oh, that's a rope
And this
Yeah.
one is. Okay, so you need to,
Signature on 2 locations and then the attest we need. So
this is the
We need to break-
agreement.
we
So
need to
there's-
break it up into-
Yeah, so you need, got 2 different. Did you want to read this before you?
Yeah,
read it?
I will.
Okay.
Alright, first one, to make it official, what you, is I would make a motion to adopt the notice to proceed, the March 2nd. It's to Nelson Fowles for the project of Phase 2 and Phase 3, Marion County Transfer Station, Marion County, Kansas. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Oh, who's that?
Randy?
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor? Aye. Second, we have the agreement between Nelson Fowles and Marion County, Kansas for the Phase 2 and Phase 3 Marion County Transfer Station. With 2 addendas noted. Including a turnkey product in the end. Make a motion that we adopt the agreement as it applies to the contract amount that we've already awarded. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Last one is just title page for the rest So,
well, Randy had brought up the dirt. 2 things come to mind. The city had offered to let us use the adjacent lands for stockpile.
to the north.
Yes. And Roger had gotten us a document that laid it out. I was on the road when I got it, I quickly reviewed it, but it looked as though he use that parcel with the agreement that we put it back, as we found it, to the same contours and everything, so, that will help us out greatly as we build this, phase 2. We will be digging out a pit that's 18-foot deep and 24-foot wide, so there'll be a sizable, and the rundown ramps too, there'll be a sizable amount of dirt that will be used on the job, but needs to be stockpiled, so that'll be greatly appreciated, to help the transfer station continue functioning as it does, and the contractor have easy access to that material. The only other thing that comes to mind is, we did point out, the Marion County has a permit with the state for the material that was from phase 1. We're gonna get lined up to get it tested here probably in the next month. I wanna give it as much time to get abated as possible, and then get it tested when the contractor may use it. Discussion was had about if the county delivers it to the site, they'll stockpile it, and then the contractor will use it. Part of the permit says we have to notify the state everywhere that material's used. So we put on there that it was going back to that site with that intent. It doesn't have to. I feel like, one, that's what we've always said, and two, you don't wanna start, well, 10 yards was delivered to bridge this, and 10 yards was delivered, it'd be easier if it all wound up back at that site. So,
This is the dirt pile that Bud removed, right?
Yes.
So that's
Contaminated.
Going to be,
Laid out and
yeah,
Barned
barned out,
out.
yeah, barned, yeah.
Yep. So I'm pretty confident. We said we were gonna test it at 6 months. It's well past that. I don't see any reason to test it until we're ready to use it. Just that way we're not wasting money on testing. So that's pretty much the high points of the meeting we had on Friday.
Again, I'd like to say thank you to Roger for just mentioning that, so that the project won't have to be crammed when you dig the dirt out and have to dig around it and stuff like that, just to move it across the road and stuff like that. The only other thing that come up after the meeting that we was standing out north looking at that, Roger and I, and then Cody come up and look at that electric pole that's in the middle of that area now.
Yes.
Did you get that one figured out?
They're gonna contact Westar. So back when Bud was here, we had conversation that there's a transformer on Westar's transformer pad there, transfer station pad, whatever, that they were hoping to tie into. So partway through the bidding, the plans had stated the city was gonna take care of it, and we changed it to say contractor. I was looking through the addendum to see what's going on there, so we just need to get that finalized, make sure that transformer appears as though it would handle the draws. We've just gotta get Evergy, sorry, these days. Get their approval and get the technicalities of that all sorted out.
One pole's down right out in the middle of where you come out the backside and go right, it's on the east side of the driveway.
Yeah, and our plans say to remove it. There's no way it can stay there and
Right.
do the wall for the pit. So it has to be moved sooner or later. To keep temporary power to the building is the whole point. So,
The only other comment that I have about the meeting that we had down there is when I walked in, I seen a whole bunch of Marion County contractors. And that was a very good sight to see.
I saw the same thing.
All local people bid on the job, so
yeah,
put
that's
people back to work in our county. So that's just a good feeling.
testament to Cody staying local, using the guys he knows and he trusts. That's one of the highlights of having a local contractor win when you bid. So.
Yeah, when I walked in, I knew everyone by the first name and last.
Everyone of the guys, yeah. No, and it's always good, pre-construction meeting too often are one guy from the general contractor and me and Leon and maybe an owner's rep, maybe not. I mean, it was really great to have everybody show up and have good conversation about the project at hand. That's doesn't always happen that way. That shows good interest. And I think everybody's waiting, ready to get moving as soon as everything falls into place. So. I think that's That's it for me.
Thank you, Randy.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you. Tina, do you have those?
Yeah, I just need to get the amount in here,
Oh, okay.
because that's not, before I test it. So that'd be the 1761 of 2076.
Yes. Yep, that has not changed as of this point.
It might be, this is my language on the motion.
Well, it's not in the document, so.
Yeah.
Well, it needs to be in here anyway before.
Yeah, and there's some of that stuff gets filled out by Barb after. Now it's fine, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
It's just usually when we sign something,
It's
we don't sign it
complete.
with blanks.
Yeah.
We'll get a copy and then we'll send it.
Usually.
Let me get one too.
No problem.
Well, I was excited that the Chiefs won, but I was a little disappointed that we didn't have a county holiday to enjoy that. Considering all the people that have taken off to,
You could just jump in with 17 million other people that.
yeah, so there's gonna be some people that are, if they are at work today, they're not gonna be there, so. I'd like to start the meeting, obviously, I wasn't here last week, but basically to say that, I am the most frustrated person in the county right now dealing with these roads. We shouldn't be in this situation, we can't work on the roads as well as they are. I appreciate people calling and emailing, stuff like that, letting us know. We're trying to get to them best we can. We obviously don't want to stay in this situation if we can make some improvements, but again, I just want to tell you that I know everybody's frustrated, but I hear it from all over the place, and it's totally understandable. So we've got to, from here on, make changes, make things better, and not be in this situation, regardless of how much moisture we got. I mean, I don't know if we had 2-3 inches of moisture the last couple of weeks, but almost all of it soaked in, and it's just a disaster everywhere.
It's a hard one when it's snow and it's wet snow. It just sits there and drips in. I mean, it doesn't run away. It just.
Like I said, it's, I wish we weren't in this situation, this is what we have to deal with, so I just want everybody to know that it's obviously a big concern for me, so. I guess the culvert bids were in your packet. I wanted to recommend that we go with the culverts, or the price from Wellborn Sales. About $5,000 difference. We're hopefully this order here should be able to get us all the culverts we need for this year, based on the plan that we have.
It's countywide, it's not.
Yeah.
I was
Yep.
assuming.
So
I don't-
we're essentially almost out of 18-inch culverts and stuff like that. I'm trying to stick, I would like to stick no less than 24-inch culverts in, simply because they just handle more water, don't plug up as much, but I am going to some 18-inch, just to, we don't have a lot of cover on them, so the more cover we can put on them. So, like I said, based on what we look at our culvert map, we have that map with our shop now with all of our pins on there where we have culverts that we know we have to replace. That was kind of our, yes, so.
I would make a motion to take Bryce's recommendation on the culvert from Wellborn.
I'll second.
Got that motion in a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Kind of got some bad news. Terry Stubblefield, my office assistant last week, don't know for sure what happened, whether the hip broke first or he fell and broke the hip. Had broken hip, had surgery on Friday or Saturday, so he will be out who knows how long. So Vicki feels confident that she can keep up with the payroll and stuff like that. So just, we've told our guys that whatever we can do to help her out. So at this point in time, we really don't know any time frame when he wants to come back. He says he's gonna be out a week. I think that's extremely optimistic, because the last thing he wants to do is, or the doctor's gonna want him to do is sit in a chair for 8 hours a day. So obviously we have to work through the issues, the FMLA and stuff like that to get doctor's approval, and even if it's only part-time, whatever else. So, whatever, just want, let everybody know, if people come down, we're gonna put a sign on there that says, please, go across the road, so anybody, to we can't tell for any lunches and stuff like that, but hopefully please understand. So, with that, I'd like to request a 10-minute executive session with the commission to discuss some personnel issues that have come up.
Just performance,
Yes.
really.
Move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss performance or personnel matters of non-elected personnel. Pursuant.
I'm sorry, would it be possible to do that after we finish the road and bridge discussion? To go, because I know we have people here who have to leave, that are here for, to
Just
consider
for
on the
10
roads.
minutes.
I guess I would like to do it first.
Okay. I'll finish my motion to pursuant to KSA 754319B. With the board, Bryce. That's it. Got a second by Randy.
Did you say the time frame? Did you say for 10 minutes?
For 10 minutes.
Okay.
So we'll resume at 10:12.
Okay, you're in a second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Drying out now, and some of
It
the,
was when? It was after lunch.
it wasn't like this, so it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah,
Out of executive session, no action taken.
but there's nobody lives in there.
Continuing on with the Road and Bridge,
Only from my
Bryce.
house, too.
Let's see, some other topics.
Yeah. I have a packet for all of you. You take one apiece and then one for Tina also. Basically, it's the following comments are based on the proposal for the rock at the commission meeting on Monday, January 27th. Norm Bauer's report is in there, and I would like to say that the one negative comment was mentioned on the entire report, basically talks about the county is forcing, that the county is facing. Some of the information given for Nelson Quarries was incorrect, and next emails from the surrounding counties' use of Harshman rock was essentially ignored, except for the use of mixing concrete with the rock. What I'd like to follow up with is, Norm Bauer's report was an excellent objective view of the roads and of the issues of the roads in Marion County from an expert who has personal related experience in them, either stated or paraphrased, or the words from Norm. First, we're dealing with rock. It varies from soft to hard with a large variation. It is also degraded when bladed and leaves fines which blow away your soil-fed moisture, which is our current situation. I told you others concur with this opinion. That's the surrounding counties that are especially in the same situation. And that's why we need to rebuild roads instead of just maintaining them. But obviously the constituents also want a smooth road to be able to get by, so that's why we maintain it. Norm also says that we've had these same problems since 1973, when he was a county engineer. So what's changed since then? Nothing, because they had the same complaining back then too. He said the same thing, and I've heard this from most of my peers across the central part of Kansas right now. He goes on to say that since many roads are in bad shape, that the constituents think that the county doesn't know how to maintain roads. We try to put out fires instead of doing what's right. So by doing what's right, we need to show them that we do know what we are doing. We have completed a couple miles of rebuilds, and the people that have seen drive on them have loved it. In my 5-year plan, there will be a map of roads. Sorry. And on my 5-year plan will show the maps of roads that I and my blade men want to rebuild. Not enough rock is stated as the overriding issue. Gradual long-term deterioration of road conditions is probably based on budgets not keeping up with cost increases. Again, 800 miles of gravel roads mean putting fires out rather than making improvements. He also says reducing the amount of rock roads may be essential. To put this in context, 800 miles of gravel roads times 5,280 feet per mile times 20 foot wide being conservative times 2 inches of rock at 130 pounds per cubic foot and 2,000 pounds a ton means that we would use 915,383 tons of rock. At just the material cost alone of $8, that's $7,323,064 per year to rock every road we have. My budget for 2020 again is $900,000. So you can see we have to spread it, be very conscientious when we do that. Major ground issues or lack thereof of high shoulders are an issue on almost every county road. Again, we want to fix this, but it takes more time and resources. He recommends 700 tons per mile to add 2 inches of crown, which is a budget rate. High shoulders develop a little at a time and is not the fault of the current practice. We have purchased a one-way to help with this, but have had little chance to use it. I'm also in the process of getting prices on purchasing flail motors that can cut grass and brush closer to the roadway to eliminate this extra material. Again, grader operators are assigned 130 miles on average, where most agencies in central and eastern Kansas are under 100 miles. This means more miles means less work per mile. We are currently working on better communications between blade operators, supervisors, and trucks to provide better service, and we are bringing back culvert and rock maps that the blade men provide us and the trucks so we get where it needs. The type of rock was also mentioned as typical road rock, where it should be used that has less than 87% retained with 200 SIP. However, this material should be on top of a good subbase, and that is where we are struggling with moisture drainage. This larger rock should be mixed with fines to develop a base, and then the AVs, 1, 3, whatever it is, can be used for surfacing. Finally, Norm recommends a blacktop plan, and will be included in my 5-year plan also. On to Nelson quarries. The proposal is correct if they have better rock based on durability and wear, but at what cost? Nelson quarries are located in Lebo, Gas City, Waverly, and Toronto. However, Lebo and Waverly are not active quarries. Toronto is the closest quarry to Marion, which is 94 miles from there to Marion, which I just use as a general guide to Marion based on whether they go farther north or farther south. The material stated as rock road for $6.60 a ton is actually AB3 from Gas City, which is 36 miles farther than Toronto, which has much more fines in it and is not the material needed for our roads. We have too many fines already. Toronto does have base rock inch and quarter for $8.20. As of now, Toronto only has this as well as 3-inch ground clean on the ground. Gas City has much more on the ground, but again, 36 miles from Toronto. All this information was verified by their supervisor quality control man at Nelson Quarries. Based on the 3 quotes received local haulers, we could not come up with anybody to come close anywhere near $4 a ton. For hauling. Considering 94 miles, that would mean $100 for 25 ton. This wouldn't even pay for the fuel one way, let alone other expenses. One hauler said $4 a loaded mile, which would add $376 per ton load, and the other two said $13 and $14.50 respectively per ton, which would amount to $325 and $362.50 per 25 ton load. So adding this $325 per load to the 25 tons at $8.20, we now have a total of $21.20 a ton. Also, with this extended haul, it means only 2 to 3 loads per day, since we can only have this placed between 7:30 a.m. and 3 p.m., so that we can make sure that the spread material is safe to pass over. Yes, there are very good truck drivers, but there's also ones not as experienced, and everyone in the industry knows that a truck driver won't go back and smooth out a pile that's left high. Therefore, it creates a hazard to the traveling public and can't be left. The proposal is also correct in that Nelson Quarries provide rock for state projects. It is not this rock. It is graded material for specific mixes like clean 3/4 inch rock provided for hot mix asphalt, ACCP, and ready mix concrete. Man sand, which is manufactured sand, is another product made. These products are processed much more than road rock and therefore much higher in price, but the same durability and wear. Contractors in KDOT do not use this rock unless it is mixed with cement, not concrete, to be used as base materials like CTB, which is compacted and covered with another material like hot mix asphalt or concrete pavement. The proposal also said that Nelson Quarries would grind concrete to our specs. Why would we want that when Marion County Road Bridge has already been given 3 miles of pavement removal and the next 3 miles of pavement removal for the US 5677 to be done this summer? I hope to get the last 3 miles as well. I already have one quote to crush material at $7.50 a ton, which I can get considerably cheaper this winter. Upon a consultation with none of my engineering peers, it was noted that his experience with Nelson Quarries had a terrible history of providing the requested materials on time. This forced him to go elsewhere for material. This engineer also received material from Woodbine Quarries and has been less than impressed with the cleanliness and consistency of the rock. also with having the deleterious material like clay balls, just for your information. As for information, I included their spreadsheet for contracted rock to be delivered to the Salina shop. It verifies our trucking information. It shows that they don't request near as much AB3 as they do SS5, which we like using because they have the same situation as well, in that we need larger rock to make or improve our base situation. Basically, this information shows that no rock quarry is perfect in their operation. As a county, we expect them to sell us the best material that we request at the most economical price. I will have my 5-year plan for roads, including dirt, rock, and pavement, along with equipment, ready by the end of the week for your review. I would gladly meet with you at your early convenience, even at night, to go over with you. As far as the Volvo motor graders go, I've given you copies of the information confirming what I was told that the experts say we should get rid of the Volvos before anything major happens. Parts are available, but will continue to get less and less, not to mention how long or how far you'll have to go or wait. Software and electronic repairs are all but impossible, as the engineers and designers from these motor graders are now working for other companies. That was their information. And the only other thing that I wanted to say was I do have some rock samples in my office. If anybody wants to come down, I'd be welcome to show anybody what I have, what I think they should use for and such. To say there's a perfect rock, there is no such thing. Depends on the kind of rock you're putting it on. Whether you put heavy rock, whether you put the AB material, whether you put sand on it, whatever the case may be, that's the kind of rock we need to choose. The next pages are actually the prices for Nelson quarries, both from Gas and Toronto, showing the prices, but again, adding the extra cost per mile for the hauling jumps in considerably up in prices. The official qualities for the material, the first one here is what we call a washed rock. You can see by the gradations that is actually sampled from, I guess this one. That it shows it's a 3/4 inch or minus rock.
And that's from Harshman, right?
No, that's from Nelson.
That's from, and there are .99
.99.
on their where? On
Oh,
their-
yeah,
so I
yeah,
understand.
I'm not talking about where right now.
Oh.
I'm just talking about the sampling. The AB3 from the Toronto plant shows 80% retained on the 200 SIP. I can tell you that's a very, very dirty material with a lot of fines in it. Essentially, passing the 200 SIP means material passing 200 openings per square inch. So it's basically dust. So 20% of that is going to be very, very fine, and obviously the finer the material would absorb rock as much. The next one's official quality for, again, 3/4 inch or minus 1 inch rock at Builder's Concrete. Again, that's going to be a washed rock. Yes, it's going to have the same wear and durability, but again, it's just an official quality for the same material. Gas City, which I said was what, 37 miles farther east, their AB3 actually shows a percent retained of 86.4%, which is what we consider a better material, not have as many fines in it. Again, that's the problem we face right now, is that we've got too many fines up there and we don't have the heavier rock and the crown and stuff to go with it. The next three information, the next two informations, right? No, it's three. It's just tests from Harshman's Construction Company telling you what their material is. Again, just showing that information. Here's some specs that Saline County had for their SS5 material, as well as the state specs for SS5, just for your information. There is the spreadsheet from Saline County talking about all the haul rates and stuff like that for the different materials, SS5, SS7, SS8, and AB3 rock, just for your information. The Sawyer Brock Transportation Company is in here at $4.11 a mile. I received quotes from J.L. Unruh, again talking about $14.50 or $15 a ton to haul down there, again just for your information. And finally, the last thing in here is the information on the Volvo motor graders. This was told me by the salesman down there to go look at this. It gives you the high, low, and average for those motor graders to be sold. Obviously, the price they're asking is the price they're asking, but if they get that grade, it's like anything else. What you ask for and what you get for is another thing. But on the back, I can actually tell you that there's some purple wave information on there for 3 motor graders that sold here January 28th. One of them was a 2010, the transmission issues, it had an error code. It only sold for $30,000. Here is a 2007 that sold for $44,000, and it did not have any noted issues. And so 44,000 was a reasonable price. 2010, there's a 2010 again, and ours are even going to be 14, so they're going to be newer, but it only sold for $30,250 because of the service brake circuit failure. So again, I just wanted to show you that that's the information that's out there. I'm saying if, but that's what we're looking at. If these equipment starts developing those problems, they're going to go downhill in value very quickly. So that's why we're now out of the 5-year warranty. That's why we were interested in getting them. Now, I want to say that this is a tremendous amount of information for you to look at. The reason I gave it to you like that, so you could take it and look it over. We could talk about that for hours and probably still not get through that. So again, I give you the information for you to look at. If you have any questions, comments, whatever else, I'd be free to, take that or defend it or whatever the case may be.
Well, I have several questions for you, Bryce. And so I'm gonna start right off. When you talk about hauling rock, I do have Mr. Sawyer sitting here, and he has agreed that he will haul at $4 a loaded ton. So at $4 a loaded ton, based on the fact that we're paying $5, $20, $25 at a minimum right now,
Right.
that in and of itself would justify going the extra miles. We're not gonna spend any more money out of pocket. And right there, and I also have here for the commission, I have in writing from Jeff
You
Radcliffe.
correct something, you said loaded ton. I think you
Loaded
said
mile.
loaded mile.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, loaded
And
mile.
I understand that. Yeah, loaded
Okay.
mile.
I have here from Jeff Radcliffe, and he has Mid-State Compost Inc. They have several trucks.
Mhm.
He
He's
said,
contacted me.
and yes, and he said that he would provide several trucks at $4 a loaded mile as well, and he can spread the rock on the roads, okay? Now, Mr. Sawyer, right there will haul and
I
he
can
will
stockpile
stockpile.
it.
Yes, so there are several truckers out there, despite what you say, $4 a loaded ton, and especially right now, and the
Loaded
commission,
mile.
loaded mile, I am so sorry. But especially now, just like the commission knows, we rebuilt 330th, west of Highway 15 at a time when the state was hungry and we got a very good price on it. Right now, the truckers are not making as much money as they normally would, and so this is an excellent time, and they're thankful to get it for $4 a loaded mile, okay? So, we're going into spring.
Mhm.
Our roads are a disaster, and this right here is only a symbol of what the roads are. I don't care if anybody lives on this road or not, because they all look the same. No matter whether there's one house, no house, or 20 houses on the roads.
I disagree
all
with the fact is
roads
that you-
look the same.
I disagree with you. The fact is that all of those look like that.
All
I'm
the roads
not,
look the same.
I'm not gonna
okay?
argue that some of them look that way.
Diane,
The majority of them look this way.
I drove 30 miles last week, this Saturday, and I found this 1 mile of road like that. It was only a mile out of the 30 or 40 I drove.
I'm sorry.
Back roads.
I'm sorry, but I drive on those roads all the time, and there's 2 roads that I wanna go look at now that I can't even get in that road to look at it because it is so bad.
Thank you.
And the farmer.
That's mine.
Oh.
I'm
oh,
Galen Martins.
Nice to meet you.
My question, can I make a question since we're talking about roads here?
Yes.
What'd you say your name was?
Galen Martins. I live at 321, 310. My question to Mr. Goldblum, I've asked you before, our roads are in rough shape. Not all of them, but there's a lot of rough roads out there. My question is, why did we spend the money on Chisholm Trail between 310 and 320, crowning that road, ditching that road, plus then we went 310 between Chisholm and Bison? I'd like to find out, one, how much money have we spent on that road already? Pulling the bridges out, putting those tubes in, and in the process, you guys are destroying my land. You ought to look what you've done to my land. You are our county commissioner for that area. Have you looked at that? Or at that time, I found out now she is, since it's been redistricted. Why did we ditch and ditch those roads? Why did we spend any money on that road?
And that's the road I have
So
not
you're
been to
listening,
look
you
at yet.
rebuilt. I've been out on that and Where are you losing all this? Where are you
Right
collecting all
across, right
this?
across the road, remember where the old steel bridge was? Right across the road. If you look
Steel
at
bridge.
that, yes, the old steel bridge that used to be in there, that got ripped out because
You mean,
Mr. Donkey, you were involved in it.
Yes.
Remember that when and Jerry argued passionately, let's close the road, we don't need it.
Yeah.
His brother got involved, who doesn't live in this county. I'd like to find out, what have we spent just on that 1 mile, ladies and gentlemen, just on that 1 mile? Pulling them bridges out, putting the tubes in, and then the maintenance. I've asked you about that, and I asked you about another road, on my road, the waterways. They have ruined my road there. You guys finally went and dug the ditch out. He said, well, we gotta be very careful what we're doing because of the farmers, correct? Is that somewhat what you said?
Well,
roughly?
usually, I mean, I
Yeah.
haven't
Have you went down and looked what you've done to my land? How you've eroded it out coming past that tube? Has anybody? I'd like to take all of you out there and show you what you've done to my land.
Well, you know, I've been trying to get down
Yeah,
there,
see, we've been trying to get down there for,
but I haven't been
and
able
I
to
don't
do that
understand,
yet.
well, I mean, I got a feeling why it's being done out there by my place. We're wasting this money on roads that nobody lives on, because nobody lives on these roads. And we spent all this money on these 2 miles of road, 2 miles, ladies and gentlemen. Why?
So,
Can anybody give me an answer?
There was a decision made after we've been there to replace the angle bridge,
Both of them,
both of
the
them.
steel and the
Yeah.
concrete.
Yeah.
And you know as well as I do that Mr. Jerry argued passionately to close the road. And then on the last meeting, when we were supposed to close the road, his younger brother got involved, who does not live in this county, and suddenly they had to have that road for their farming operation. You're destroying my land out there so that they can farm 12 acres that Mr. Jerry argued passionately they didn't need the road. And I'll take you all out there and let's look at it.
Well, I do plan to come and look at it. I'm hoping
Yeah,
it
it's
dries
gonna
out in
freeze
the next
hopefully
couple
tomorrow.
days.
But my
Yeah.
question again is back to you, Mr. Global. I did ask you when we were standing on the road, why are we spending this money on those 2 roads? Can anybody answer me that question?
Well, like I said, there was a decision made, and if it was because of him, I'd have to go back and look at the minutes, but.
It was because of Gene
to
Unruh.
retain the farm, so farmers could get through there.
The problem is, he also Jerry argued passionately, he didn't need the road. It wasn't changed until Gene Unruh got involved in it,
Okay.
who doesn't live in this county. He lives in Saline County. And again, let's go back and look what we're doing to my road, or to my land. If it breaches one more little place out there, because you know as well as I do, the Cottonwood River cannot handle, those tubes cannot handle the Cottonwood River. When that comes out of that tube, look what it's doing to my place. And then on top of that, the maintenance that we've had to do since we've done that. I know that blade operator's been down there hours and hours and hours, blading dirt from way up by my place down back onto the road because it's been eroded away.
How long has it been? 3 to 5 years?
Oh yeah, it's been like that, and you ought to see what it's done.
I was saying Mr. Crawford was he?
Yes, Mr. Crawford was
Was
involved
the
in that.
supervisor.
I'm not blaming it on anybody in here. You were
What we
the-
did is change from a normal little flat bridge, steel that probably had a 15-foot opening or so, 10 to 15 foot.
Oh, there's more than that. I mean, it was like, they were
Was it 20
a good sized bridge.
I was thinking it was underneath our limit, which is 20,
Yeah.
is why I was thinking that.
Yeah,
we
I
put a
mean,
tube
it
in.
wasn't gonna, that's what Mr. Crawford, they were not gonna make DOT. They were,
Yeah.
they weren't gonna make,
Well, it don't meet what our bridge specification
Right.
goes under 20, right?
and see,
Right?
we'd all agreed to close the road
And then we
until
put a-
Gene,
Then we put a tunnel in, or.
2 tubes.
2 tubes, okay.
And you're destroying
And-
my
and
land
just
because
shooting water out
yeah,
across-
you're destroying my land. I won the 1996 Wildlife Habitat Award for this state, and you guys are destroying my place. And my question is why? I mean,
I appreciate your comments, but to be fair to other people,
Yeah.
other people are here to speak
yeah,
to,
and then, that's, I
a
said
lot
what
of
my
you-
piece.
So,
a lot more minutes than I usually allot anybody
so
else.
can I continue just for a little bit?
If we can move forward,
Well, he has, I want to ask Bryce, so I have shown that there are truckers out there who will do it for the $4, which you disputed. There are
No,
truckers
I
out there
did not
that will do
dispute that.
this.
I did
So
not
my
dispute
question
that.
to
I
you
said
is-
right here, If he will do it for $4 a loaded mile, yes, not $4 a ton.
A loaded mile.
Yes,
That was my
I
mistake.
don't dispute that whatsoever. What I'm just saying is when you start adding the price of that long haul down there,
It's not gonna be any more than we're spending now. From Waverly, no, it's gonna be cheaper.
And,
It's gonna be cheaper.
and my findings, I found that a short haul, they won't do it for $4 a mile.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
20 miles,
Yep.
30.
30 miles, okay, that's your minimum. That's what I found. The short hauls, like we was hauling from.
Well, I'd
Florida.
work with you any way you wanted to work.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, that's what most of them told me, that now the longer hauls, when you get to a 100-mile haul, then the $4 could get close to it.
And he
but-
said that and actually these guys right here as well, for the 30 days, they would until the.
I'd even make a
Great.
better deal than that. I'd work for you, and when you didn't need rock or stockpile, because that's all I'm capable of doing, I'd even work, and I told Bryce, I said, I'll even come work for you part-time, if my truck sets idle. I'm gonna be right here, you'd be able to get a hold of me.
And I will
It
also
would
say
still need
he
to
is
be
a local,
contract.
he's a local truck driver, and I'm based out of Newton. And I hear the commission all the time, local, in county, he's in county. And so are these people right here. And I will also add one other thing too, I also talked to Levy Trucking, and they also said if we need help, they're more than happy at the same rate, $4. I didn't get anything in writing from them because I said, well, this is already 3-4 trucks, so I don't know we're gonna need any more. But if we do, Levy Trucking said that they could also chip in for that same price. So I mean, there's lots of local truck drivers who could do this for us and save us money. So if we have to go a little bit, and I will also say to you as far as the Waverly quarry that's not open and the one in Lebo, that is true. And the reason that is, but they will open those quarries up for us if we put a bid in to buy the rock. And I had explained that to the commission, that we missed that. So they don't need those
I don't
quarries
dispute that.
open at that time.
I don't dispute
So
that.
then the hauling would only be 67 miles if we go to Lebo, if I'm not mistaken. So, but my question to you, Bryce, is what is your issue with even trying something different?
I have no problem with trying the issue. I'm just trying to get the information back. Again, granted, you talked about last year that we spent $1.6 million hauling rock. Well, with the flooding and everything else, we had a lot of contract hauling. And that contract hauling typically costs us more than using our own trucks. Now, granted, we haul more material or whatever the case may be. But that's where the whole thing is, our guys, essentially our guys are getting paid for it. We have our trucks, we're paying for fuel. I would hope that we can deliver it less than that. Now, granted, they're smaller trucks again. I have no problem with using contracted trucks or what kind of rock. I'm just saying there's budgetary constraints all the way around. Again, if I had $7 million, I could rock every road in the county, but we have $900,000.
And see,
Plus
Bryce,
$200,000
the whole
for-
point of this deal is, again, I don't wanna see any of my constituents having to live on roads like this. Yes, we choose to live in the country, and no, staying at home is not an option. And secondly, we can fix this. The reason our roads are in this mess, and despite all this documentation and all this he said, she said, and this is your opinion and their opinion, the bottom line is, I have eyes and I can see what's happening to our roads. Everybody in this county can see. We don't have to have all these expert explanations why our roads are slime. Our roads are slime because we're putting slimy rock on it, and rock that's not holding up. I'm simply suggesting try something different. I mean, it may turn out to be nothing better. It may, but it ain't gonna cost us a dime more to try something different. It's not gonna cost us a dime more, it's gonna save us money. And the reason for the price sheet, and you can pick and choose which one you wanna put on the road. I don't care if you put the concrete, I don't care if you put the 2-inch, the 1-inch, well, the 1-inch I would say probably not, but I don't know, that's your call, I'm not even going into that. There's a lot to choose from. But that rock up there in Nelson cannot be as bad as what I'm hearing today from the people that are using it, and from the other experiences that I've heard before from other people that use that rock.
I have a few more people in the audience
Yes,
I know are
thank you.
here, and I'm gonna stay on schedule.
Well, I guess a couple of comments is, Mr. Goble, you have indicated that surrounding counties are getting along fine with the rock that Harshman is providing. I challenge you to ask you what kind of roads they're being put on, because it is a twofold situation. So yes, maybe McPherson has got a grounded road, maybe they have ditches, and yes, Harshman's Rock, who they stood here and said it doesn't hold up in the situation that we have in Marion County. So maybe they can use it. Maybe we can go back to that at some point. But it doesn't sound like that is something that right now works. I mean, and I'd like to ask you, what is screenings at Harshman's? What do they charge for screenings? Do you know?
I don't know, because they're not conducive to road work whatsoever.
That's what we have. That's what we have on our roads right now.
And-
Harshman's, you bought it. I understand you bought it. And I understand that at the time you bought it, it was not screens. It has now turned to screens. That's all we've got. So when it dries on our trucks and our vehicles, we can't even get it off. So unless we're living in a desert, that'll work. But it doesn't work now.
I understand that. And that's what I've said, is that we don't need to be hauling the AV materials, we need to be hauling the heavier rock to get those built back up, to get the crown back in there. We can drop all the rock we want to out there, and if the water can't get off there and not soak up into the subbase, we're just gonna be hauling rock again.
I'd like to attest to that, because I went north of Hillsborough, and you guys just put rock on Indigo. The rock's still there. It is still there. It's under some soupy stuff. It's still there. I went and checked. I'm sorry, I'm messing with your roads, but
No, that's fine.
it's still there. And that happens with vibration, right? Vibration across the road, you're gonna build that slurry to the top.
Among other things, yeah.
You know, so if it's slurry underneath, it's gonna come up. And all you're gonna do is push that rock down.
But in a year from now, what's it gonna look like? Because I can attest that we had rock put on Falcon a year ago at this time. We now have to use four-wheel drive. It is black. There is no more rock there. And so unless you're planning, I mean, you can throw out all these exorbitant prices that it would cost if we put the right thing. I mean, I kind of take offense to that, because it's all excuses of why we don't do something different. This, what we're doing, is not working. So when you throw out those exorbitant prices that this county is gonna have to pay, I know every single one of you county commissioners, along with me, who pay the taxes, sitting there going, whoa, we don't wanna do that. But we can't keep doing what we're doing. And these are places where it isn't just an inverted. This rock is not holding up on our roads. So so unless you're planning on rocking every road in Marion County every year, then we can keep using that, because that's what it showed on Falcon. The rock is gone in 1 year. So we need to try, and I guess I am also concerned about, it looks like there's a marriage between Harshman Rock and Road and Bridge in Marion County.
It sure does.
Well, and it appears that way, but I don't think there is. There shouldn't be, but it appears that there is. I mean, that's how it looks.
I know, but I resent you even saying that and disrespecting my integrity. Of all the things, I want to do what's right when I also have a budget. If I go out there and drop another $1.6 million out there for whatever reason, then they're gonna come back to me, I mean.
These people?
Yeah.
These people who are asking you to do something different?
No, I'm saying that as a county, or as a department head, I'm given a budget to make this work, whether that's equipment, whatever else. If you guys want to haul this material, I have absolutely no problem with it. But they are not exorbitant prices, they are factual prices based on what they gave me.
I understand that, Mr. Goebel, but you're sitting there saying that I have a budget. But these 5 people are asking you to try something different, and you're telling us everything that we shouldn't be doing.
I did not say we shouldn't be doing that. I'm saying here's the cost to do that.
Okay, and I think they're working with you, because what we're doing isn't working.
Okay. I can also tell you that I did get a call from Sam Harshman today saying that the latest quality they had came back with where 98 or 99 on it, or percent, so, considerably better. Now, again, where we get rock, I don't care, I'm just looking at economics, so.
Is there anybody else that has something to say? Dinah? Got a couple of minutes left.
Last year, I lived between Pawnee and Quail on 230th. I told Diane that we needed, well, first of all, I stopped the road grader because he was going to do 1/2 mile of fixing the potholes. I told him to go back and finish the job. And then I called Diane and says, I need rock. Because he says, well, you better call because I don't get listened to. Whatever, I don't care. So I did, and I called her and I says, I don't want the Florence crap, I want the Woodbine. We got it. And then last summer I stopped Jesse, I said, we need sand, because we live on the north side of the road. They done it. You go out there now, that is a good road. Joni, you know that. Diane, you know that. You guys put, I think, 1/2 mile or a mile from Pawnee on between 230th and 240th, Harshman crap. My husband sucked in that much, he had to put it in 4-wheel drive.
That's what I'm doing to get into my place.
Harshman's is no good. I helped Diane figure this all out on the rates and everything. It ended up $4 a loaded ton equals to $14.40 a loaded mile. I mean,
$4 loaded.
$4 a loaded mile equals $14.40 a ton. Now, Diane, didn't you say it was like $6 a ton?
That's for, yeah, now they have
6 to
different
8.
qualities of
Say
rock.
6 to 8.
660 is what it says for
Okay,
these three, yes.
$7.
And I used that as a,
$8. Just say
no,
$8.
six.
Whatever.
660
Okay.
Well,
for the 83 is what I was
We
using.
figured out, Diane, because I
Yes.
saw your invoices.
Yes.
We figured out if we'd saved half.
Oh,
We
I'm
cut the
sorry,
rock.
I'm sorry, you're talking about Harshman's price?
no, we're talking about the clean rock from Toronto.
Oh,
We
clean rock,
saved
that's different.
half. We cut the, I'm talking. We cut the rock budget in half. That's even hauling from 86 miles. I think you could probably get 2 loads a day.
Yes.
If you start out early, you can get about 2 loads, and you have like, what, 5 different locations you can stop by? Am I not?
I only know of 3, but
Okay, we'll say 3.
But I know there's some down south, I don't know where they are.
Okay, whatever. He can get them done. You've got equipment operators. You don't got truck drivers. You got equipment operators. Those equipment operators ought to be able to do everything. If they can't, then they need to find a different job and go work for Walmart. I'm sorry. On our farm, I can drive everything except for 2 things. That's because I don't want to. That's a D8 dozen and D6. I have a CDL since '98.
On a job?
No,
Like your
I
friends?
don't. I've got a job.
No,
I
I'm saying
enjoy my
like-
job. I drive school bus. I enjoy my job. But I tell you what, if these roads aren't acting to shape, these kids get killed, you guys are looking at a lawsuit.
I don't argue that, and I don't care whether it's a school
Then
kid or
get the
anybody.
damn rock from Toronto and try it.
Language can't be decided.
Yeah, we gotta be respectful.
Well, get the rock. Try it.
And let's not waste money on roads that nobody lives on.
Yeah.
We gotta move on.
Oh,
There's
Can I make a comment?
Well, the time is up. I mean, some
Well,
people go
can I make
over
a
in
comment?
time, and we can't just.
Gotta be short, I'm gonna be short. All I'm gonna say is that you could go out and, plot right out here and look underneath my truck there, I dropped that last week. And Dave goes out there, drive out to my house, you know, if it takes 30 miles, I gotta go about 30 miles to get there, go around. But yeah, all you gotta do is look at my truck and look at all the mud, or I call it, well, Harshman's rock that's left on it over. That's it.
Yeah, well, this is about the roads, it may not be about, I suppose it sort of is.
It's not
But-
putting it to the agenda item. It needs to.
Well, yeah, no,
Okay.
it's,
Okay.
okay. One thing you need to do better, is, okay, well, when you're working with, like, like getting trees out of the road and stuff, you really should be working with the landowners a little bit, a little bit more than what you are, because I think there is a bunch of them that would help you when you know when you're doing something like that. Probably the one example I'm thinking about, there along 110th, which is a road. I'm really the only one that really uses it or really has to. And I think if I would work with you to find a place to pile some of the stuff, it'd be a lot easier on everybody anyway. And it's not a road I've complained about anyway, because I figure it's only 1/4 of a mile from Blacktop. If I have to walk, it's okay. You know, I'm just trying to say, certain roads, just like what I think he said, certain roads need attention, certain ones don't. I'm not somebody that needs a whole bunch of, you know, once in a while there's gonna be a road, I'll say, hey, that one, you know, you need to do something. I'm saying there's a bunch of them, I'm like, no, it's all right, I'm the only one using it, it'll be okay. You know, that's what I say, you need to do a somewhat better job of working with some of the landowners.
Yes, thank you, Randy.
Yeah.
Any help we can get, we'll take.
Mr. Chairman, may I
I'm willing,
point
you
out
know,
one other
don't,
thing?
you know.
We got in our packet a letter from the school, and they went to the work to show all the roads that are in sad shape, which are on bus routes.
No.
And I would highly suggest that we set forth an immediate policy that our bus routes and mail routes are number one, and we get the walk on these roads right here in the school. And this is the second letter that we got from this school saying that the roads are hazardous and our children are on these buses.
The first time it was due to ice.
Yes, and that's important too, but right now we're talking rock, so I was staying on to the subject. This right here is the fact that the roads, and there's a lot of roads, and so I would just ask that when we get this rock, that the road and bridge take these roads seriously and get them rocked and keep them maintained.
Just trying to defend Bryce a little bit. I'm pretty certain in the routes that I've seen, and we'll get into this deeper when we get with him on the 5-year plan and his strategic planning and what he does. But from what I've seen, his high traffic roads are already high priority. So I don't know how we move them any further up on the list.
Well, schools always come
Yeah.
always come first.
Yeah, and I don't doubt that he doesn't already do that, so.
Apparently they don't feel that way, because they wouldn't be giving us the letter if they felt that way or experiencing that. So the bottom line is, I wanna ask, are we going, I'm sorry?
There's an information there, what they would like the roads fixed. And they thank for fixing them.
That was the last time that they asked, and he went in and fixed them.
Like I said, there's a rock put down 3 weeks ago, and it's already underneath slurry.
Exactly.
I mean,
But that's the way
I
it
don't know what he
is.
can do to do anything until spring.
Well, I'm asking, are we gonna put the better rock on the roads, or are we gonna try a different rock right now, or are we gonna just leave and not have anything accomplished?
If you're
I'm asking, what are we gonna do, because we have a truck driver sitting here, we have other truck drivers that have to make their schedules. Are we going to start doing this or not?
if there's value in the pricing and there's an opportunity to save some money, then there should be no question that we
Okay.
should.
So,
Then, and he will have to make that judgment. He will
So-
have to make a judgment on this location, he can get the rock there cheaper for this, or he can get a rock for that. I mean,
You said you can only stockpile, correct?
Right, my truck's not set up. I got a 35-foot engine. I put it up there in that third stage.
Yeah,
I mean, there's guys that would do it, but I'm not one.
Well,
It's your truck.
you take a big
That's
risk.
right.
You take a big risk.
I pay the insurance on it.
Yeah, and you don't want it over on the side.
Right, right. And another thing, I worked for the county many years ago, many years ago. I know Norman Bowers. I worked for him. There are places in the county where the ground, we used to stockpile years ago. And we had strategic places where it was all stockpiled. And your truck drivers went out there, your 10-wheel truck drivers, your 6-wheel truck drivers went out there. And we have a loader operator, and that was his job. And he loaded trucks all day long, grabbed low boy and moved around the county, and that's what he did. But we also had truck drivers that could run loaders. So, they loaded themselves and away they go, And to me, it seemed like it was a cost savings thing for them, you get this rock hauled in from places where this rock don't just basically waste away. Do you put twice the rock on a road when you can do it once and get it done?
Either
So I-
take this meeting to another day, or it's going on longer than it needs to. Some of this stuff is circling back around, and it's.
Okay, but I'm still waiting for the answer. Or what are we gonna do with the truck drivers? Are we gonna just continue the way we're going, or are we going to try? Because I have to give these people an answer as well, so they can make their schedules.
That's Bryce's department, to hire truck drivers.
But this is, I'm asking the question. Are we going to try something different or not?
I think that should be the department heads.
Bryce.
He has lots of information now. And you need
Okay.
to decide through.
So
Bryce
the bottom
knows.
line is we're gonna just leave it all up to Bryce.
Well, he knows as much as anybody that he has a budget to work with, so if he can save $6 a ton here, he's gonna do that so he can get more tonnage by the end of the year. Any logical person would do that.
That's what I always thought, yeah.
Quality, because if you, like you made the comment, the best deal, but are we talking quality to quality? Because what we originally talked with was Harshman's were able to get it out of Waverly, and it is a better quality. Hands down, everyone will agree, it's better quality. But then Mr. Harshman said, well, we can't give it to you at that price. So are we pricing Waverly rock to Nelson quarry? What are we pricing? I'm not sure what we're pricing in
But
the quality.
it's gotta be the KDOT spec to KDOT spec. That's what the standard was set. It has to be, it's gotta be apples for apples.
Okay.
I believe what Mr. Harshman said was that we're getting the material back at whatever, $15.50, whatever else. If we start using a lot more of that material, we're gonna go to a direct haul, and that's gonna take it up over $20 a ton.
Unless we use that trucker right there and go to Waverly for less.
If you can get it for less than that $20 a ton, you would use up everything they have.
Yeah.
And then you would look at alternative sources to get it. Right? That's what you would do, right?
What's your truck hold, 27, 25?
25, 26, just depends on what amp you weigh it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's around 31.
I got,
I do want to go into executive session with you, Bryce, and I realize you have to move on, so maybe you can come back later.
well, you got a job to do too. You're sitting here all day, we ain't gonna get no roads fixed.
Well, he has men working to do that. We could do it right after the meeting, and go do something else, and then.
Well, I'd rather not bring him back. I'd rather try to, if it's short, how much time are you thinking?
I'm thinking, to keep it short, I'll talk fast, 5 minutes.
Okay. If you wanna make that motion.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session with Bryce and the commission. I don't have my sheet right here, according to KSA, 4573B, for non-elected personnel for performance
Brad, do
with Bryce and the commission.
Brad, you want Brad?
Brad can go in, yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry, so
Would you
it's KSA 754319B.
Could you restate the whole thing?
I'm gonna make a motion to go into executive session with Bryce, the Commissioner Brad, to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel for performance, for 5 minutes,
Pursuant.
pursuant KSA 754319B.
I will second. discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0?
Yeah.
Okay, out of executive session, no action taken. Moving on. Going to Eugene. Nope.
Bryce gone?
Yeah. Okay. As soon as that door opens.
Good morning. Good morning, Janine. How are you?
Do we need to,
You're happy with the Chiefs?
Mr. Dawkins.
Everybody is, I think.
Well, yeah.
We asked, yes.
Yes.
I'm sure
I
they're
think
gonna
the
want
question,
to.
there isn't with rock, but I'd like to put it in our supervisor's hands.
Okay.
And somehow, does this commission agree to let Bryce come back and show us what he can save us, like bidding rock out and all the, and that is his job. And we've had commissioners show us, you know, let Bryce show us and take bids and let's see what he can save us. Try it for a while. I'm not saying try it forever. I want to see it. I want to see it in all over the county, not just in somebody's area, not in my area. I want to see it all over the county. So if we can get that accomplished by giving Bryce that back to us, I'm happy with that.
Make a motion.
We just need to have him back in the room to have him directive, I think.
Yeah.
Just, we'll see if
do you want me to call him back now or before he leaves?
I don't want to be disrespectful.
No,
You wait around for a while.
we can catch it
Are you
right
in a
after
hurry?
that, but I mean, how long are you?
Usually she does.
I'm here all day. So.
No, but how long do you need?
10 minutes.
10 minutes at the most.
Okay,
Time prices.
yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's just my quarterly report, so.
Okay.
Okay.
As you can see, at the end of the year, we had a very nice balance. We've since did a distribution. So, but we collected $13,581,879.25 between November 1 and December 31, which was 59% of the total ad valorem revenue.
Up or down from last year?
Well, you can see, yes, so, I think we were at 57%, but it always runs around 58%. And, we've since done a distribution, so our balance has gone from 29 million down to 22, so.
In one hand and out the other.
Yeah. So we.
I have a question. The checking accounts on all the different banks. You ever check to see if you could draw interest on that money?
We
What you
draw,
got,
we draw interest on
But
everything.
accounts, that $5 million set in the checking account, getting daily interest? Okay.
Yes.
Making the county's money work for the county.
Yeah.
As much as we can, as much as we can do, so. Any other questions?
Keep up the good work.
We're trying. Got good stuff.
There's a graph in there, Dave, on interest rate.
Yeah, I've seen that. I didn't know.
Yeah.
No, they had CDs, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were
Money-
CDs
Yeah,
too.
money market accounts are also drawn.
Daily checking accounts.
Even the, just the plain checking accounts,
Okay, that's
some
good.
interest, so.
Not much, but yes.
Yeah, and it's all going down again, so.
Thank you.
I
Very much.
had you call back, Bryce. Thank you. Janine. I'm gonna make a motion, I'd like for you to hear it. I'd like to make a motion for us to let Bryce, our engineer, take some bid on some of the hard rock and pricing and trucking and see what we can save and try someday, Bryce, see if we can see what it looks like. I'd like it to be distributed in all parts of our county, whether, however you want to do that, it's up to you. But you are the person in charge, and that's who I want to put in charge, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
So,
Clarify that.
okay, so what I wrote down on the motion was to let Bryce bid Hard Rock to include trucking for rock to be distributed
Yeah. and
around
that-
the county.
That's from some of the hard rock that's been looking around Waverly, some of that, see if we can save some money on trucking, see what, just bring
I'll
us back.
second it.
I don't know how to say Nelson quarries, I mean,
It should be opened up to any of them.
yeah.
As
any
long as
of
it's
them.
apples for apples.
Right, so see what we can find, Bryce, see if we can do that. That's my motion. Did I, good enough? Okay. Second.
Second.
Dave, second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Bryce.
Alright, moving on. County councilor.
Okay, it's primarily a continuation of what we were doing on Friday, so the executive session again, same purpose and obligation.
You wanna do the lease payment thing first? He's at
The what?
the, one at 11:30.
Yeah.
You wanna do that first?
Well, since he's here, if you want to.
That's gonna take a little time also.
Yeah.
Okay.
What, are we looking for 30 or we're looking for?
I think so, by the time we get everything hashed out, and then Sharon's here today on several of those, that she can provide some additional input, so it doesn't have to be in initially.
So would she be for the entire minutes?
No.
Okay.
Just be invited in.
Two executives.
No, I think we can do it everyone, because it's the same topic, it's just a matter of whether we need, some of them she's available to give input on, others she isn't. So just start with us and we can invite her in.
Does that have to be a complete different motion?
You can do it that way if you want to, it's fine with me.
Okay. Give us a time frame, maybe that'll distinguish things a little bit.
If we're gonna do it that way, let's go ahead and do 15 minutes to start with.
Okay. Move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss item
Is it
number,
pending litigation?
number 2, consultation with our attorney, attorney-client privilege, pursuant to KSA 75-4319B.
To discuss pending litigation.
Discuss pending litigation. All right, let me start over.
No, you're okay. You just need to keep adding.
To discuss pending litigation with the board, Brad.
That's it.
Got a motion second by Kent.
Did you say for 15 minutes? Okay. Great.
All those in favor? Aye. 5-0.
Trying to push you.
I know.
Executive session. Yeah. Well, this is
All right, out of executive session, no action taken. At this point, need to move back into executive session.
Same purpose, only this time inviting Sharon to come in.
I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss item number 2 for consultation with our attorney, attorney-client privilege. To, what was it?
This is pending litigation also.
Pending litigation.
It's just her department that's involved. So.
To include the board, Brad and Sharon, for 15 minutes pursuant to KSA 75-4319B. Do I still have a second? Can't give me a second? All those in favor? Aye. Out of executive session, no action taken. We're gonna move right on through on the agenda to Harderberry, Stifle, Nicholas and Company. Have somebody say who you are and take a hot seat over there.
And I'm gonna make a few comments, and then I think what I'll do is I'll turn it over to Mitch Walter with Gilmore and Bell, and he can kind of walk you through what what needs to be done related to the lease. But as you know, a few weeks ago, you went out and took bids for lease financing for the new transfer station facility. And you got really good responses, and you elected to go with Central National Bank to provide the lease agreement to you. And the principal amount of the lease, you ended up deciding to reduce the borrowing amount to $1,755,000. So that's how much the principal of the lease will be. Be aware that, you know, if there are costs above that number, above the $1,755,000, that you need to pay, cost overruns or anything like that, it's going to be your responsibility to pay for that out of your pocket. There are going to be about $41,000 or so of issuance-related costs, and I talked to Tina a little bit about that, and she said that it was your preference, she thought it was your preference to go ahead and pay for those out of your pocket too, rather than finance those costs. So that would be the plan right now, is to, at the closing, there'll be $1,755,000 made available to pay for the project costs. Anything above that, including the issuance costs, you pay for it out of your pocket. The annual lease payments, it's a 15-year lease, and it came out to about $148,204 per year.
Out of our pocket?
Yeah, that's the lease payments.
No, I was gonna say the other was, I was thinking you were on that. Go ahead. Go ahead,
What was
Dave.
that number, I'm sorry?
148,204.06. And that actually, there's semi-annual payments, so split that in half. That's how much is due every 6 months. And the only action item related now that you're going to need to do is to actually adopt a resolution to finally authorize the lease. There are still some terms and conditions that are pending that I guess I'd turn over to Mitch to kind of have you describe the resolution.
Sure, certainly I can do that. Should I switch places with you? Hello, everybody. Mitch Walter with Gilmore & Bell. I work out of our Wichita office. Gina Rekoff is with our Kansas City office, and she has also been working on this transaction. Gilmore & Bell was brought into this transaction by John Small, who of course has been counsel to the county in the past, and as John sort of transitions his practice out, John reached out to Gina to see if we would be available in assisting the county in this matter. So that's how we arrived here. We're certainly happy to be in our role as special tax counsel for this transaction and to work with the county. So the resolution that you have in front of you makes certain findings about the necessity of authorizing this lease purchase agreement to finance the improvements to the waste transfer facility, and that the county has previously satisfied all the requisite steps with respect to notice and publication, and the 30-day protest period is run. And so this is what we call the authorizing resolution, which authorizes the chairman on behalf of the county to actually sign the financing documents for the transaction, which will then, of course, become the final documents that will be included in the transcript and based upon which the funds will be forwarded from Central National Bank. As to the state of the documents, we provided drafts of the lease purchase agreement and associated closing documents a couple weeks ago. We got comments from Banks Council at the end of last week, and we're still working through a couple of the provisions in those documents. I don't expect the final version to be substantially different than what we have previously sent out in draft form. Because the county is, of course, a political subdivision and subject to the Kansas cash basis law, there are certain provisions in the lease purchase agreement which are non-negotiable, meaning that the county cannot be obligated to make rent payments above and beyond what it has budgeted and appropriated in that fiscal year. And so that's, without getting way down into the weeds, that's the main issue that we're still working through, just so that the Banks Council can get comfortable how that affects the bank and the business decision that they've made to partner with the county on this transaction. So that's where we're at. Again, I'm hopeful that we'll have execution-ready version documents by certainly by the end of this week, hopefully sooner than that. But Once that happens, then we would distribute the fully executed documents in a preliminary transcript to each party. The bank would then fund the escrow agreement pursuant to the escrow agreement that's included in the transaction with the principal amount of $1,755 that Dave had discussed. And then as project costs are incurred, the county would just attach the invoice to the form of the payment request, which is on the escrow agreement, submit that to the bank, and then the bank advances funds from the escrow that it's funded at the closing of this transaction. So that's how the project costs are paid. These are not, certainly I think the county's, has the county entered into lease purchase transactions before, right? It's substantially similar to the county's previous lease purchase transactions, and the mechanics of how they work and the language that has to be in there. I would just make a couple other quick comments here. There's some other language in the resolution regarding compliance procedures. And if you'll permit me, I'll try and make this as short and painless as possible while I'm talking about federal tax requirements. So the county, as a municipal entity, is authorized to issue obligations which are exempt from federal income taxation. So the bank will not pay interest or pay taxes on the interest component of the lease payments. With that comes some additional requirements. The federal government chooses to view that tax exempt feature as a loss of revenue, meaning that they're not going to get tax money that's paid on those interest payments. So there are some additional requirements that go along with the issuance of tax exempt debt. Basically, the project has to be used for a governmental purpose, which of course it is for a county waste transfer facility. The funds that are used to pay project costs need to be tracked and accounted for. And that's basically the long and short of it, is use the funds for a good comp for eligible project costs and keep track of how they're expended, you know, and who, what, when, where, why, for the project expenditures. So the IRS, with all this in mind, has set forth a recommendation that issuers of tax exempt debt adopt compliance procedures related to their ongoing compliance with the issuance of tax advantaged obligations. So in our role as special tax counsel, we've drafted these compliance procedures for you, and that's what they spell out, that basically the county understands what its requirements are with respect to the issuance of tax advantaged obligations, and we'll have organized files where it can document, you know, the who, what, when, where, why with the expenditure of those proceeds. The reason that we have you formally adopt these is that there's a small form that's involved in every tax advantage transaction called the IRS Form 8038G. There's a little box on that form that questions whether or not the issuer has adopted policies and procedures related to tax exempt financing. We want you to be able to check that yes when we turn it into the IRS. If you check no on that one, or if you leave it blank, we think that you go into this other pile over here, and then you have an increased chance of random audit, which isn't the end of the world, but it just adds time and expense that nobody really needs to bother themselves with. So that's why we have you adopt these formal compliance procedures as well. So that's hopefully enough about that with the federal tax related components. But this resolution also authorizes the execution of those tax compliance procedures, which have been provided in draft form. Tina, I can follow up on that with you. We have provided those, and we can certainly send those around again and make sure that they're part of the final transcript of the transaction.
All right. I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 2020-06, resolution authorizing Marion County, Kansas to enter into a lease purchase agreement to finance the acquisition, construction, furnishing, and equipment of solid waste transfer station facility improvements, and to adopt the execution of certain documents in the connection therewith.
Second.
Got a second by Kent. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Okay, very good. And so the county has some options here as to how it wants to actually facilitate the finalization of the documents. I brought signature pages here with me. One option that the county would have would be that the chairman would execute the signature pages. We would hold those in escrow until such time as we had final forms agreed to with all parties, and at that point in time, attach the signature pages. If the county's not comfortable doing that or doesn't want to do that, which is perfectly fine, we would just hold off until we have final forms of the documents, and then those could just be executed at that point in time. It's just merely a timing preference for how the county wants to.
I would think the county council would want to look at those first.
I'm fine with that.
It says here,
With most everything that's already been, unless there's material changes, I've looked at them preliminarily.
it says in the resolution, that we just authorize and directed to execute, deliver the county documents on behalf of actors. So is there really a?
It's a fielder's choice whether you'd want to just sign ahead of time and then we'd hold them until we had the final versions agreed to amongst all parties, or you would rather just wait and execute when we had the final forms available.
I believe we would have them in time to, have you sign next Monday. And then the closing is scheduled for the 13th, so if you didn't want to sign ahead, you could potentially wait until Monday and sign it with the completed documents. But that's up to all of you.
There's no right or wrong answer legally, it's just what you're comfortable with.
I'm okay with either, I mean, that way not everybody has to be here. I think everybody should be notified before the signature takes place.
The advantage to doing it, and I don't want to push you into doing it ahead of time or not, the advantage to doing it is that we have all the signature pages, so that when we have a final agreement in place and everybody has agreed to it, we are ready to basically distribute that preliminary transcript, and the bank has what they need. The notice of leases can then be recorded, and certain things that are a little bit timing sensitive prior to the finding of the lease are a little bit easier. That's the advantage.
They're serving as our legal counsel in a fiduciary capacity. They've got express instruction to do nothing with them until everything is in place. So I don't think you risk anything by simply signing them, giving them to counsel.
Do you have those
Yes, I
signature
do.
pages?
As a matter of fact, I do. And it's, yeah, it'll be.
We did have them. They want to run away. Here, get some extra ink there, John.
Yes.
Looks like the president take this mic and drop it.
This is just for me to sign. Do you want me to?
You know, his chief fan. Somebody's got to.
Here are the signature pages. This will be the site lease, the lease, the escrow agreement. And those will be the fundamental financing. And there should be 2 copies of each.
So, based on the resolution that we just passed, do we have to have a motion to sign this, or?
I think you're authorized to sign, yeah, the resolution authorizes the chairman to sign on the county's behalf.
It's just personal liabilities.
Got a lot of that.
Sign the signature.
See which bank wants to come out first.
Or we could just send it back one more time to see if the state would let us do taxes. We just thought of that as.
If the state would let you do what's that?
Oh, we did black on the jail with the sales tax. And
Okay, was it 8? Yeah.
I can't believe that they did just because and or and all of that, they ruled against that. You had to do all three.
I didn't hear that. Yeah. Selected area. Is there anything else on this topic, this agenda item?
That is, yeah, I have nothing further. So we will just continue to work with the bank and council here in the next, throughout the week and come to final terms, which again, they won't substantially change from what the county's already been presented, but hopefully we have it all wrapped up and we'll send out the preliminary closing transcript sometime next week prior to funding.
Which if we go on as planned, will be on the 3rd. Yes, money would be delivered to you on the 3rd. Or put into the escrow. Sure.
This one, you have a notary on yours. So, it's that.
Oh, this is to the lease. Well, I'm a notary, so I can go ahead and sign that.
And you just watch me sign it. So
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Yes, appreciate it.
You don't gotta go nowhere, we're just moving on.
Sure.
Since we already took up the commission review applications for weed, HHW transfer, Randy, we wanted to make sure that you had a chance to view them before we moved on, so they have to either, is this something we could allow him to look at personally, or does it have to be done as a commission? So, we take.
You still have 3 people?
I think we have 5.
Five.
So we won't.
I couldn't do that.
Is
There's
it,
5.
is this something we want to do now, or do we,
Okay.
That way it's finished.
Here.
or do we want to continue it off to next week?
Well, what's your schedule, Randy?
I've got time right now. I gotta take a quick 10 minutes and look at it.
Yeah.
See if there's anything changed.
Before we do that, that we still have the, we had never executed the engagement letter for Gilmore Bell. And so we do have that now. It does have the cost filled in. And so that, we need action on that. And then that way we can sign off on it and give that back to them.
Make a motion to sign off on the engagement letter with Gilmore Bell for the financing of the
What is the cost? Can you announce the cost?
I'm sorry, I was looking for that.
1.7, right? Is that what we're talking about?
I think it's
You're out, their cost, right?
Yeah, I think it's 18,000 or 17,000.
16,000.
16.5, which will be allocated between John and Gilmore. So that's the inclusive.
You just need a signature of the chair, I assume.
Sure.
Authorized chair to sign. That's what you're wishing.
We had a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Let's see.
Okay.
Yep. Any unfinished business from last week?
Not that I remember.
I know that we made a date for the big one.
Oh, we didn't.
Does that need to be discussed?
Set a work session to discuss the pay plan. Randy, you had said that you wanted to do that within 30 days of the December pay year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's coming right up.
Yeah, all right. We either got to do it this week sometime, or you guys can do it next week, but I'll work it next week.
I think you ought to be around.
I'll be gone the 10th through the 14th. I'll be here for the meeting and then be gone on the way.
Is that in?
Is it 18th? We lose a day for the holiday.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's the 18th.
So that's on a Tuesday.
Tuesday afternoon.
And so I won't be able to make that one, but you guys can go ahead. Go ahead, you guys can handle it, I don't
I
need
think
to.
it's, we need to all be involved.
Well, you all know where I stand, so if you just go ahead and, I just have a commitment for that afternoon, for that day, actually.
I-
You know, so, but go ahead, I'm comfortable with that.
You still wanna look at some of our lower class people?
That's my position, but, like I said, everybody pretty much knows, you guys can just keep that in mind as you're working. And however, because I do have to leave on that day. At noon, so. Because that's a Tuesday, right, after the commission meeting.
I
I'll-
got
I'll
a day,
miss-
that,
I'm
you
not
pick a day
gonna
that week,
miss
and I can do
it.
it too.
No, that's fine, I'm okay with it, I'm okay with it. Don't want to prolong it too much longer.
Yeah, I don't think we want to prolong it any further than that, so if we're not prepared to take it up sooner than that, probably need to stick with it on the
Okay. What kind of information do you know will be prepared for that meeting?
What you probably will at least need would be what our current pay plan is today, and probably what the report and the pay plan that was received from, I don't even remember the name of the place right now.
Proposed.
What other,
McGrath.
okay, what other, yes, McGrath and Associates, what other information,
I wanna see the list of our employees.
right, that's,
You will have that on there.
that's on our current pay plan.
Okay, on current payment, okay, all right.
Is there any other information that you would,
Nothing I can think of.
oops, that's not the day.
I'd like to have the information, the current information, my information is from last year.
Yeah. that's what
I'll
they
send
got.
out a packet to all commissioners, whether or not you'll be present at the meeting.
Is there any other unfinished business anybody can think of? All right, we'll move on to public comment. Mike has the floor.
You got a suit on
You got 3 minutes.
You got 3 minutes, Mike.
Choose your words wisely.
Well, Jeff showed up at the water line, then the banker showed up for the farm inspection, so I guess I missed the showdown. You guys might be aware that our new county engineer's probably down there writing his resignation letter, so I guess it must have got pretty heated. So I guess I won't comment any further.
Is there anybody else got a public comment? All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, this thing is complicated. Just let it count down and do its thing. Getting ready to get a bigger hammer in a second. Right here.
What happened to the cocaine mallet?
Tina, get it?
No, I didn't have it, I think Diane took it, Diane has it.
What do I have?
Okay,
The
now,
croquet mallet,
keep the people under
the
order.
the big gavel.
I do, I'll be happy to pass it on, but pushing it around at the house, I don't need it.
He left things for you.
It's funny.
No, it's only funny when Rocky presents
It
it.
was.
Rocky's got away.
Oops.
Get to the
I never
point.
turned this off.